3 things I wish I knew in my 20s. Number 1, it's okay to make mistakes while you're learning. Years ago, when I was a young mom, I went over to my neighbor's house and visited her. And I noticed that prominently placed was a quote that said, "It's okay to make mistakes while you're learning." And that phrase had never, ever crossed my mind. In fact, I was pretty much a perfectionist to the point where I was afraid to try new things, learn new skills, especially if it meant that other people would see that I didn't know what I was doing, which is a lot of things that we do, right? And so I asked her what about that quote and why it's so important to her. And what she told me was this: I'm a retired school teacher, and I noticed that the kids who struggle the most in school are the ones who are afraid to make mistakes. And so I wanted them to understand that it's okay to make mistakes while you're learning, and that's part of the process. That's how you learn. And so she decided to hang that in her classroom, and that was the same picture or the same quote, and it was quite large. That was the same quote that she hung in her classroom that she brought home when she retired. And she said that the kids who did the best are the ones that were not afraid to make mistakes, are the ones that are willing to try and fail and try again. And to me, that was exactly what I needed to hear. Now, it doesn't mean that I changed instantly and decided, oh, okay, I'm going to make all the mistakes I can. It took a while for me to internalize that message and recognize the value of making mistakes and the value of failures and the value of using those as stepping stones so that you can learn and grow. So I am just so grateful that for that experience many years ago where I learned that it's okay to make mistakes while you're learning. And here's something to remember: life is a journey and we're always learning. You're never done. So you're always going to be making mistakes. So get comfortable with that and recognize that it's okay to make mistakes. The second lesson is action brings clarity. That is something that I also struggled with because I wanted to have every plan laid out from step 1 to step 5082 or however long it takes to get there. I wanted to know all the steps with certainty, that I could take all the steps and that I would succeed, right? That kind of perfectionist played into it, and also wanting that certainty of knowing the beginning from the end. But here's what I found: when you have a goal, especially if it's a big goal, imagine that like a mountain in the distance. You see the silhouette, it's dark, and you can't see all the steps, but you're aiming towards that. You're heading towards that mountain. And here you are on your trail, you have a flashlight, and you can only see so far into the darkness. But it's only when you take a step that you can see the next step, and the next step, and the next step. So only as you move forward can you see the other steps unfolding as you go. Now, here's the other thing that I found. As you travel towards that goal, and just imagine that mountain again, and you're at the foot of the mountain, and you're looking up at it and recognizing just how massive it is. This is a pivotal point for you, and just as it has been for me, where you can say, you know what, I actually don't have any climbing gear with me. I don't know how to climb. I am so unprepared. You know what, I'm going to bail, and I'm just going to forget this. I came this far in this trail, but I'm just going to turn around and go back. This intense fear and intense feeling of we don't have what it takes is the very moment when you need to keep moving forward. Because here's what happens. What I found is that as you continue to move forward and get closer and closer to that goal and start heading up that trail in the mountain, a lot of times what I've found is like, that is not even the mountain I meant to climb. But I had to aim towards that in order to get to where I was, so that I can see this secret passage that opens up and takes me on a path that I never would have found had I not moved forward. So when you have goals and you have ideas in mind, and sometimes you're wondering, like, is this the is this the exact goal that I need to head towards? Is this what I need to be doing with my life? With, be all in. And it's almost like you have this fear of being married to this goal and committed to it for the rest of your life. The best thing I can tell you is that action will bring that confidence and that clarity. And as you move forward, you'll find a pivot or a turn, or you'll find that the climbing gear is there for you, or that a teacher appears and a mentor and they help you traverse that mountain. They help you scale that mountain. Or maybe it is not a trap door, a secret passage that takes you into a whole different world that you never would have found if you had waited to have all the steps laid out, and if you had waited for that 100% confidence that that is the goal and that is the mountain that you're meant to climb. So just move forward. You'll learn as you go, and action will bring confidence and clarity. Now, the third lesson that I want to share with you is this: do not judge your past self for what you know now. This is one that also changed my life, because in my early 20s, I found that I was looking back at certain things that happened through my teenage years and childhood that I judged myself for, even though some things were my choices and some things were not my choices. They happened and they were painful. And the more I learned and recognized, I look back and I just started judging myself, like, oh my gosh, how could I not see those red flags? How could I have not seen that that was going to happen? How could I have not known that that was going to happen? Now it's so clear to me. It's so obvious to me. And as I began to judge myself, that's what creates trauma, is when we replay what happens from the past, even if they were traumatic events. We replay them over and over again, and that creates trauma. And then I fell into some serious depression, social anxiety, and it just seemed to get heavier and heavier and heavier as time went on, until I started to dive into personal development and learn about mindset and learn about some of these things that I'm teaching you today. And so here's the way I want you to look at it. Imagine that when you were 10 years old, someone came and there was this brutal thing that happened and your leg was broken. It wasn't because of you. Maybe there was an accident, or maybe someone ran over you with a motorcycle. Whatever it is, your leg is broken and it wasn't your fault. Well, that healed, a year later, 20 years later, that leg is healed finally. Not a year later, weeks, right? Weeks later, that leg is healed. But what happens is many of us, and I did this as well, started to replay that over and over and over again in our mind. And that's the equivalent of basically taking out a baseball bat and bashing our own leg and breaking it every year on the anniversary, or every day. As soon as it heals, you're breaking it again. You're breaking it again. So now who is causing the pain? Is it that situation in the past? Or are you currently causing the pain by replaying it? That's what I had been doing, and that's what many of us do without realizing it. And part of that is because we're judging our past self for what we know now. Hindsight is always 20/20. It's so annoying that it is that way, but it is. So what I would recommend is that you give yourself some grace and some forgiveness. And you can ask yourself, instead of, why would this have happened? Why would I have allowed it? Instead, ask yourself, how could I love myself through this? What do I need right now? And what do I want right now? And what is my next step to move forward, so that I can move out of this victim mentality of living in the past and start moving forward towards something better for me and for my future. So those are the 3 lessons that I wish I had known in my 20s. The first one, it's okay to make mistakes while you're still learning. The second, action brings clarity. And the third, don't judge your past self for what your current self knows now.